The floor is yours. Okay. I was told to speak in English. Okay. Is that the deal? Should I speak in English? Oh,
So it might sound a bit strange for all of us Brazilians speaking in English, but I was instructed to speak in English. So I'm a very disciplined guy, so I will speak in English. Right? I follow the rules. I'll let you guys put your headphones. I'll it's my great pleasure to be here tonight. Let me start by thanking the institutions that organized this event, the General Consulate of Japan in São Paulo. Mr. Consul, thank you so much for your support, the support of your team. Thank you, the Japan House. Carlos, thank you so much for making this event possible this night. Thank you also to my team at the Cardozo Foundation. I think I should first invite our two guest speakers to come here to join me. First, Professor, I will read your name to avoid any kind of mistake. So, Professor Hiroko Akiyama, please join me. Marcio, you please also can come to the stage. I'll be very brief in my introduction before I present you both to the audience. Just a few words. Why is it so important for us Brazilians to discuss population aging? And the answer is quite obvious. We are aging, and we are aging really fast. I was talking to to Milton. I was almost many times called you Marcio for some reason. So sorry, Dr. Milton. And he was telling me that most European countries took 100 years to reach the threshold of 14% of their population with 65 plus people, right? Brazil took 5 times less than that. So in 20 years, we came from less than 5% of the population with 65 of the elderly people, to simplify things. And 20 years later, we are now with the percentage of the population, Brazilian population, with ages 65 or plus, 14% and growing. So we are aging fast, and we are facing the challenge of getting old before we get rich. It's a different story in Europe. It was a different story in Europe. It was a different story in Japan. It's enough to compare per capita income in Japan. When Japan became an old country, so to speak, most European countries, they were already countries with a GDP per capita much higher than Brazil has now. This is a big problem. And it's not only an economic problem, it's also a social problem. We'll have to come together to find solutions to adapt fiscal policy, health policy, education policy, urban policy, redesign communities to adapt Brazil to this phenomenon, which is completely unavoidable. We are aging, and we're going to be aging for the coming years. So having said that, let me introduce you very briefly. I'm going to read this to avoid any kind of mistake. Professor Hiroko Akiyama is Professor Emerita, University of Tokyo. She was former Vice President, Science Council of Japan. She is a worldly acclaimed gerontologist. Professor Akayama has conducted a number of cross-national surveys and is widely recognized as an expert on issues of global aging. She's known for the long-running research on the elderly in Japan, tracking the aging patterns of approximately 6,000 Japanese elderly for 30 years. Is that correct? Oh, so 35 years, even a longer period. And recently, she initiated social experiments projects that pioneered to redesign communities to meet the needs of the highly aged society in the Kamakura living lab. So she's someone who has the technical knowledge about the subject, but also works hands-on in thinking it through and coming up with solutions, practical solutions to the aging of the population. Now let me turn now to Marcio. Marcio, your bio is in a different. I'm sorry, my bad. I'm really sorry, Marcio. Sorry. Yeah. Marcio is also, Milton is also a gerontologist with a degree in medicine from USP, not far away from here, with a clinical experience in aging and sexuality as a volunteer in an NGO linked to the Hospital das Clínicas, and also he has a private clinic that deals with aging and sexuality with people of different sexual orientations, right? So this is a topic that is of great interest to all of us and to me in particular. So thank you so much for being here. And now I think I'm going to give you the floor, Dr. Akayama, for a presentation. I think you had slides to show, right? All right. Would you like to, would you like to go to the podium and
Well, thank you for the kind words.
I'm going to sit there just to have
yeah,
a
that's
better,
right. That's
just to
correct.
have a better view.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm very grateful for the invitation. This is my second time in Brazil, but the last time I was here for 30 years, 30 years ago, okay? And the aging population is a global phenomenon, and we face the various issues in a national level, community level, and individual levels. And it is my great pleasure to have this opportunity to share ideas and also experience in redesigning communities for aged society. And Institute of Gerontology at the University of Tokyo is an interdisciplinary the research institute. And my academic background is social psychology. So I have always approached the issues in aging from the place of ordinary citizens, not macroeconomy or medicine. Okay? And today I have too many slides. For the time allocated to me, so I have to walk through the slide very quickly. And so I prepared for the notes for the simultaneous translation. And I want to stay close to my note. So because I have a tendency to get off the track when I speak freely. Okay. So allow me, the lack of eye contacts. Okay. Let me see. Okay. Well, in my view, the challenges and the opportunity is very important. Opportunities in the age society are condensed in these three issues. For individual life design for 100 years, we need a new map of life. For society, redesigning the hard and soft infrastructure to meet the needs of the highly aged society. And for industry, 100-year life society is a gold mine of innovation, and there is a big market as well. I'll start with a brief description of the background. Population aging is a global phenomenon. Japan is one of the frontrunners of rapidly aging societies. The average life expectancy of Japanese women is now 88 years and 82 years for men. According to the government report, half of the babies who are born in Japan in 2007 are expected to live age 100 or longer. It's hard to believe, but anyway, now we are talking about 100 years life in reality. The current total fertility rate is 1.34, and as a result, 29% of the Japanese population, more than 4 persons in Japan is age 65 and older. The total population started to decline in 2010, and as you see, the working age population has been steadily decreasing. And population age 65 and older, particularly age 75 and older, increasing. Well, this is a quick overview of the changes in retirement age and the related statistics and policy implementations. 60 years ago, most people are retired in the early 50s. My father, who worked at the bank, retired at age 55. In 1960, the average life expectancy of men was 65 years. So men lived 10 years in retirement on average. And only 5.7% of the Japanese population was age 65 and older at that time. Okay? Now in 2024, the men's life expectancy is 82 years, and almost 30% of the Japanese is age 65 and older. And the retirement age is now 65 and heading to 70 years old. As a total security policy, security policies, the government introduced a universal pension system and universal health insurance system in 1961. Universal, as you know, means everyone is entitled to receive pension and health care. This system meant a lot to Japanese. In 1935, there was a major reform of the pension system. The age people qualified to receive pension was raised from 60 to 65. And in year 2000, National Long-Term Care Insurance System was introduced. It covers long-term care at home and also in care facilities. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. The social welfare the spending, social welfare the spending for pension, healthcare, and long-term care has been steadily increasing. Although this is an important issue, I will not focus on macroeconomic issues today. In year 2030, it is predicted 23% of the population aged 65 and older are demented, and almost 3/4 of women aged 75 and older will be living alone. Okay, this is a new phenomenon in Japan. This is cohort difference in frequency of contacts with non-family members, such as friends, neighbors, and relatives. You see the women in later cohort reported less social isolation, but the men's trend is on the opposite direction. This is a common phenomenon in urbanized societies, not only Japan. Okay? Weakening human bonds, particularly among men, is an issue we need to address. We have been conducting a panel survey following about 6,000 Japanese age 60 and older, basically every 3 years since 1987, looking at changes in major domains of their lives with increasing age, health, economic status, and social relations. And using ADL means activity of daily livings and instrumental activities of daily living limitations. We looked at changes in independent living with increasing age. It is functional independence, a key concept of WHO definition of healthy aging. Okay, this is a survey design I just talked, and we are collecting data this year, the 11th, the wave of data. Okay, and these are some questions. Okay. ADL and IADL. Okay. Well, we found, 3 typical patterns of health change among men. The point I want to make in this graph is a red line. 70% of men stayed functionally independent until mid-70s, and then their health gradually declined and required some assistance. And this is a similar graph for women. 70% of men and 90% of women. Altogether, 80% of Japanese older persons start losing physical independence in mid-70s. The population age 75 and older is rapidly increasing and double in the next 10 years. So these trajectories pose a serious problem. When I returned to Japan in 1997, after spending more than 20 years in the United States, I felt we know what issues are. What we need now are solutions and actions. And to address various issues in the rapidly aging society, we launched a social experiment in the community. We identified 3 priority issues. The first, to extend years of being independent. The second, to create an environment for aging in place. The third, to maintain and strengthen human bonds. The existing infrastructure of communities was built when the population was much younger, and we need to redesign both hard and soft infrastructure of the communities. We are trying to redesign communities for meeting the needs of the highly aged society. We want to build communities where people could live for 100 years, staying healthy, active, connected, and live with a sense of security. This is not a retirement community. It is ordinary community for people of all ages. As this is a social experiment, we evaluate effects of our interventions at individual level, community level, and the cost. And we make policy recommendations based on scientific evidence. This is the overview of the project. And it requires considerable scientific and social innovations. Actually, these are major projects we're working on at the same time. Okay? We have 2 experimental sites, one in the metropolitan area, 30 kilometers away from Tokyo, and the other in rural area. We chose 2 quite ordinary communities so that they can be helpful for other communities in redesigning their communities. Within a limited time today, I will briefly report on 2 projects, workplaces for the second life and aging in place. We live longer and we work longer. As some of you might remember, this is the title of the OECD report, or this published in 2005, so 20 years ago. We are not only live longer, but also live healthier. This slide compares the usual walking speed of people in the same age groups from 1992 to 2017. As you see, men and women in all age groups significantly improved in walking speed. The changes are amazing. Also, the current seniors are better educated compared with the previous generations. As you see, the people who finished only elementary school or middle school drastically decreased, and the college graduates increased over the years. In 2017, Japanese Association of Geriatric and Gerontology made an official pronouncement to raise the definition of old age from 65 to 75 years old. Okay? So probably all of you are not old yet. Okay, and several years ago, we conducted a survey asking 5,000 people aged 50 to 64 what they want to do after age 65. Number one, over half of the respondents mentioned they want to work full-time or part-time. Number two was learning. Japanese seniors are willing to work. According to the national survey by the Cabinet Office, 70% of people aged 60 and older wish to work until 70 years old, and almost 40% said they wish to work as long as they are capable to work. And this is a graph in the report published by Ministry of Health and Welfare. It shows the labor participation rate of seniors and their personal medical care expenditure by prefecture, you might know, the regional administrative units like province, okay, have moderate correlations. So it's working and the better health are kind of correlated, okay. Expansion of job opportunities of seniors is essential to ensure sustainability of the society to maintain and enhance the labor force, social security finance, and economic development. The prediction of labor demands and supply in 2040 looks bleak. We lose 8.45 million workers in the next 16 years, and seniors need to be producers. Social security benefits exceed 100 trillion Japanese yen. Seniors need to be taxpayers. Expansion of senior market is also important. Seniors will be the active consumers. This is an important issue at the societal level, and there are obviously a number of macro policy issues to address. This slide shows if we work until 75, the old age dependency ratio will considerably change. People wish to work even after age 65, and work is good for health. So we start for the second life. Kashiwa City is one of the experimental sites. It's a typical bed town of Tokyo. A huge number of baby boomers who commuted to work in Tokyo retired and came back to this community. We are creating age-friendly workplaces and a flexible scheme of employment suitable for the second life. We created the workplaces in agriculture, municipal office, businesses, education, and personal care. All workplaces are operated by business owners, in the private sectors. The wage varies depending on the nature of work, but the minimum wage is guaranteed for all jobs. Using work sharings, we develop a flexible employment scheme for both the employers and senior workers. All the persons decide when and how long they work. We offered, the job seminar, a kind of orientation program for designing the second life. These are senior workers at work. We evaluate the effects of working after retirement age at individual level and community level. These are some of the indicators. Using these devices, we assess the physical ability, cognitive abilities, social interactions before they start working, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months later. These are the analysis results so far show positive effects of working after retirement. Based on scientific evidence from communities' experiment, we made policy recommendations to the national government, Ministry of Health, Labor, and Welfare. And based on our policy recommendations, in 2019, the legislation was passed at the national diet to institutionalize the program. This is a guidebook we published for disseminating the program to other communities. Now it is spreading throughout the country. For a long time, we made individual and collective efforts to extend our life expectancy. When the average life expectancy approached 80 years, the focus shifted to the extension of healthy life expectancy. Now we are about to seek the extension of years being engaged in the society, the extension of engaged life expectancy. Okay. Next, I'm going to go through quickly. The next project is aging in place. The primary concern of older persons is health and long-term care. The Japanese government is promoting the integrated home-based care system, which provides both the home-based, the health and social care services for 24 hours. This flower pot picture illustrates the concept of the system. Six components are conceived to make up the system: medical care, nursing care, and rehab and prevention. These professional services make up the plant part. The social care are the services supporting daily life, such as shopping, cleaning, and transportation, is the soil part. Housing constitutes the flower pot part. The last but not least important is the patient's choice and the preparation, the tray. This slide illustrates more concretely the concept of the integrated community care system. When we built the system, the first hurdle we had to clear was doctors in private practice were reluctant to be on call for 24 hours. Most of the doctors in private practice run an office with one doctor, a couple of nurses, and staff members. So on call for 24 hours means he or she cannot go to professional meetings, take vacation, not even enjoy a glass of wine with dinner. Okay. So we propose the doctors form a pair of primary and sub-doctor in the area, but they did not like it. They are concerned their patients might switch to the sub-doctor. Okay. So the current system is one doctor stationed at a local health hub is available to serve as a sub-doctor to all clinics in the main area. Then we collaborate. They collaborate with other service providers such as care managers, visiting nurses, dentists, PTs, and home helpers. When we started, we formed 5 working groups. The first one was physician working group, which set up workable relations among primary doctors, a sub-doctor, and doctors in the hospital. The second, coordination working group coordinated healthcare and long-term care services. The third, trial practice, the working group, tested and verified the system by trial runs. The fourth, hospital working group, defined discharge protocol and backup system of home-based care. And finally, the face-to-face working group where all service providers get together and enhance the partnership together. This is a training workshop for health and long-term care professionals on home-based care. We mix lectures, workshops, and practicum at the home visiting situation. Four years ago, the combination of independent assisted living facility was built in the central part of the community. Various service the stations for home-based health care are located on the first floor of this building. They are the offices of doctors and dentists who make home visit, and visiting nurse, PT, and home helper stations. The pharmacy delivers medicine to patients' home. All of them delivers their services to not only to the residents of this facility, but also to the residents of the surrounding community. Okay. This is a picture a doctor and a nurse visiting patients' home. And my mother passed away at age 98 3 years ago, and I remember for her last 2 years, she received home-based care like this. This small-scale multifunctional service center provides daycare service, short stay for respite care mainly for caregivers, and home visit by a nurse and or home helper responding to the patients and their families' needs. This type of service center, the center is very user-friendly and in the great demands. The integrated community care system is a patient-centered care system, cooperating with hospitals and the social care services such as mobile meals and transportation service in the area. It provides a total care in the place the patient resides. We published the guidebook for promoting the Kashiwa model of the integrated community care system. Transportation is a big issue for older persons to stay safe and active. In collaboration with several companies such as Toyota, we are working on alternative means of transportation in the community. We maximally utilize the existing ICT to reach out to people to stay healthy, safe, and connected. And we also pursue technological innovations and test new technology in this community. This kind of social experiment requires not only the collaboration of researchers in different disciplines, but also full collaboration with local government, healthcare institutions, NPOs, business community, and residents. Our ultimate goal is to make linkages among longevity, health, and wealth, where I believe is utmost challenge in this rapidly aging world. And population aging is a global phenomenon. By taking up enormous challenge and exploring new opportunities in the aging society and building sustainable society together is our global goal. Thank you for your the attention.
Thank you, Doctor, for you covered a lot of ground. Your speed was absolutely astonishing. So congrats. Now your comments, Dr. Milton.
Boa noite. Boa noite. O microfone está.
Can you hear me? Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. First of all, thank you. A word of thank you to the council. Arigato. Thank you for the invite, for the chance. Thank you, Professor Akiyama. Also, a big thank you to Japan House, the FHC Foundation. It is a privilege and an honor to be here talking about such an important topic. And a topic, when we talk about aging, about longevity, it seems like we're talking about a specific public. those who went to bed at 59 and woke up at 60. No, when you talk about longevity, you're talking about society as a whole. If we do not talk about longevity, we're not talking about the children, the babies being born today. The kids who are children today but will age later, they need to have the right to age well. So thank you, Professor, for sharing such important topics about the longevity and all the studies that you have conducted. Talking about the importance of talking not only about longevity, but longevity with engagement, longevity as a means to wealth, so that you can understand how aging could be an engine, a driver for the economy. And the elderly, oftentimes seen as a problem, can be the solution. And I'd like to propose an exercise to all of you here today to comment a bit or to think, when do we become old? When do people tell us that we're old? When do we feel old? At 60, at 70, at 75, as the professor mentioned, the 75 seems to be a watershed moment in the life, when society seems to look at 75 as a watershed. So the question is, when do we become old citizens? So when we feel old, how are we going to feel? Then we need to think about connectivity, autonomy, independence. And of course, we need to be able to participate socially. So we need to understand aging is good. Aging has to be an objective of all of us. We need to celebrate aging. Professor Kalashi is following us on the internet. He says, aging is good, dying young is not. So aging is an objective of all of us, of society at large. And at the same time, we need to understand that it's not enough only to live more. We need to live more, but live well with quality of life, healthy, autonomous, independent. I'd like to, Professor, talk about what happens in Brazil. Today, in Brazil, we have 216 million people, 216. As Sergio, Mr. Fausto mentioned, we have aged fast. And before, we had reached a good level of wealth, a good level of equality. So we have several challenges ahead of us when we think about aging. And of course, we need to mirror your best practices. So today, 15% of our population is older than 60 years old. So I'll mention some of the progresses we've made in Brazil for the aged population. One of them is our new constitution dating back to 88. We do have a constitution which was passed in 1988 that ensures protection to the rights of the elderly. And this was a true achievement when compared to previous legislation. So we need to ensure and celebrate that celebrating the Constitution is a good thing. We need to celebrate other laws that ensure health care to older people, especially the poorer. So this law of 1993 ensures older people, which are more vulnerable, to receive at least a minimum wage. So we have to celebrate all those achievements. And also the Elderly Act. The Elderly Act has turned 20 years just now. It was passed back in 2003. And it is a set of laws that organize the legislation in favor of the elderly. So those are the positive points. Now I'm going to mention the challenges. So laws, legislation is not enough. In this country, in Brazil, our legislation is very good. There are very good laws that favor the elderly, but we need to think about how to enforce those laws. So a first step is to think of how to make sure we have those laws that were passed are actually enforced, that they not stay only on paper. For example, health. Everyone is entitled to health care, but not everybody is ensured that. So, and also social inequality, which is also a point. I liked when the professor mentioned a global agenda to fight poverty, fight hunger, social inequality. That's the huge challenge we'll have ahead of us. At the same time, as we're aging fast, we need to face the challenge of overcoming social injustice. I have a bit of data here about aging in unequal societies. We do not age and lose the ability to do what we do every day, such as getting dressed, going to the bathroom, basic things. So, a survey which was conducted here in Brazil back in 2020 that checked the level of limitation that the elderly have in Brazil. And they compared the school level, the educational level of those people, and they noticed that across the people who suffered more restrictions in their daily lives, 43% were illiterate, 29% only had basic education, elementary or middle school, and only 13% had a higher degree. So limitation or loss of autonomy, loss of independence have different impacts across different educational standards. And also the racial aspect is important. Yesterday we celebrated Black Awareness Day in Brazil as we try to discuss racism in Brazil. So our country today, the population is composed of 54% of black people, 54, but when we look at the poor, we have 75% of black people who are poor. So aging in Brazil is not an assured right to everyone, and that needs to be said. And also a data around dementia, as you mentioned. We do not wish to suffer that, but we know the impact of aging with Alzheimer and other dementia conditions. An interesting piece of data is that today there are populational surveys showing that globally 40% of the risk factors for dementia can be changed or they can be potentially changed. And these are not factors on which we'll act only in the adult phase or in the elderly phase, but also in childhood. So good education and early age impacts old age in terms of dementia, or chronic diseases treated at the right time, obesity, diabetes, air pollution, all of that has an impact on the elderly when we talk about dementia. While in Brazil, 40% of the risk factors for dementia can be changed or modified, so if we do not do anything now, we'll increasingly have more people suffering from dementia. In Brazil, 50% of those factors are potentially modified. In Latin America, it's 54%. And what are the main risk factors? Weight, obesity, diabetes, physical idleness, so things we can act upon. If we do not do anything now, urgently, and then again, talking about health costs, we will have a society which will be more, quote unquote, expensive. When you have dementia in the family, it's not only one person suffering, the whole family, the surrounding will suffer. On top of that, the caregivers, and in Brazil, caregivers are usually family members, women who will be working as a caregiver informally, not financially compensated, and more than that, invisible to the eye of society. So we need to talk about a caregiving policy. Who will take care of us? As a society, who are we going to assign the role of caregiving? We need public policies to provide support to those caregivers, to provide not only personnel, staff, but places, institutions, either long-term or whatever we decide is the best way. That needs to be discussed urgently. And aging and dementia risks will affect differently the whites and the blacks. And speaking about it is important so that we can fight inequality. We need to create affirmative actions so that that level of injustice proper, did not need to exist so that we can do away with it. And again, who will be taking care of all of us in the future when we're all aged? When we think about aging, and there's that saying that goes, the others are old, not me. I'm never old. Only my friends, my colleagues are old. As long as we have this attitude, I'm never going to grow old, I won't be taking care of my health as I should, and I won't be thinking about public policies for the elderly. And that also affects kids, adolescents, teenagers, everyone. A city, a country, a whole set of rules affects the whole population. One final piece of data, there is a study done in Brazil, a study of longevity here in Brazil, that sought to understand or to compare the quality of the surroundings of, and they talk a lot about aging in place, the quality of the surroundings, how elderly felt their surroundings, their neighborhood, vis-a-vis their quality of life. And the nicest piece of data says that it's not enough for the Ministry of Health alone think about aging. That needs to be present everywhere. Elderly people who perceived that the sidewalk was nice, the curb was well constructed, transportation was safe, there was no trash on the sidewalk, the lawn was mowed, and yet on top of that, they realized that where they lived, the place where they lived, was also good for kids, children, teenagers. They had better life quality, the elderly. So once again, thinking about aging is not only for the Ministry of Health, it is for the Ministry of Labor, the environment, education, urban planning. When you think about cities as a whole, it's an overall, over-encompassing policy making. And again, it's when I think about myself, those sitting by myself, by my side, thinking about the planet we have, and the planet that we will leave behind when we're no longer here. So I'd like to finalize my thought saying, going back to my first sentence, when are we going to be old? If we depend on the others, this will never happen. We need to understand that we will be old and think about what's going to happen when that happens. And we need a set of choices, physical activity, eat better, treat chronic diseases, and the sooner the better, of course. It's never too late to start, of course, but the sooner the better. But that's not enough. That cannot be on the individual's responsibility. It's not an individual decision. We need to have public policies around local, state, federal levels to make this a true public policy. I said that 7% of risk for physical inability in dementia, because physical activity is always mentioned as a factor. Friendlier cities where we have parks and squares where you can do physical activity. So to think about aging, that's a problem for all of us, for our kids, our grandkids, our friends, for the people sitting by my side on the bus. Aging well is a right, not a privilege. So thank you, Professor Akayama. Thank you, the consulate. Thank you, Japan House, the Fernando Henrique Cardoso Foundation, and I am now available for questions you may have. Thank you so much.
I'm going to provoke a dialogue between you and Dr. Akayama, and I think we are getting questions from the public. Bene, you're sending me you're going to select the questions and send it to my WhatsApp. All right. I'll pay attention to them. But just to to kick off our conversation, there is, I guess, a cultural element in the way societies see old age, right? And so I'm curious to know how Japan historically has seen old people. I still remember it was a film. I think it was shot in the beginning of the 80s. It was about the eldest son of a family in a small village, and the mother of this family was getting really old, and time had come for the eldest son to carry the woman to the top of a mountain so that the woman can pass away on the top of the mountain. And that was a question of honor to him. So that conveys the message that old people have a central role in Japanese society. I'm assuming this based on that film that I've seen a long time ago. And Brazil is quite the opposite, right? I think we still, although we are aging fast, I think we are still very much trapped into the myth that we're going to be young forever, right? We praise, beautiful men and women with wonderful young bodies and that kind of thing. And even when we portray old people on TV, advertisement, they look much younger than they really are. So, or they pretend. So, plastic surgeries, all sorts of cosmetics. So, I think the contrast is stark between, culturally speaking, between these two societies. So I know, economic factors play a role, but I want to focus to start this conversation on the cultural element, on how these two different societies see old age, and starting with you, Dr. Akiyama.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yes. Oh, okay. Oh, that's why, because I didn't hear, so sorry. The cultural aspect of about aging. Because I lived in the United States for almost 30 years, so it's very different. Okay, and not now, but traditionally in Japan, I think it's kind of the life of people. It's from they're born and then grow and active, and then gradually disengage from the world, okay, and then return to the soil, okay, and so that is kind of the perception of the human life. So, the movie you mentioned, the drama is Narayama Bushiko. It's Narayama, but I think that's I don't know you know or not, but I think when the older women they get old and they not productive, okay, and then that the kind of tradition. The son, put the mother on the back, and they climb the mountain and leave her, and then I think so she dies. Okay, there. Okay, and it was said this is based on the real, the custom in certain part of northern part of Japan, but it seems it's not. There's not that such thing. Okay, but anyway, but that is kind of the symbolize the way how Japanese looked at old age probably. Well, in the sense, Japanese and all the people respect it. But I think it's just in the nature. I think this is the goals to return to the gradually disengage from this world and then return to the soil. Okay, but now changing, as I mentioned, because okay, let's keep engaged, socially engaged. So it's and as you mentioned, in the American culture, it's being young and sexy is a good thing. Okay, so even if you are 70 or 80, just let's be young and sexy, and I think American the concept of old age has been changing too, but in both countries.
Can I pick back on because Kalashi, our friend Dr. Alexandre Kalashi, has just sent us a question, which I think is very much related to your comment about disengagement.
Yeah.
that relates to loneliness also.
Loneliness?
Loneliness, yes.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
is this how big a problem is this in Japan? And what kind of policies, initiatives, if any, are Japan adopting to try to deal with this problem?
You are talking about social isolations and loneliness,
Yeah.
right? That's a
Yeah,
big,
that's it.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
a big issue. So I think one of the priority issues when we redesigned communities. They form the human bond, they form and maintain human bonds. Okay, and they particularly. Men, all the men, in urban area, I think loneliness is it's a big issue. And as you might know, I think it's a UK, there is a minister of loneliness, right? So this is kind of global issue, yeah, in Japan too. But the approach might be different, yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. Milton, now your turn. No.
Can, so I'll touch upon two topics from your thought-provoking insight. So I was also interested about loneliness, and they are connected to a global phenomenon. So this prejudice against the elderly is also a problem, right? You mentioned something important, which is along with the U.S., sometimes the U.S. is up, sometimes we are first, but we are either second or first country that has the highest expenses in plastic surgery. I do not criticize plastic surgeries in themselves. People are free to do what they want. I'm not criticizing those who choose to go through plastic surgery, but we need to check. Am I becoming more anxious? Am I trying to find youth where I can't, after a standard I can never reach, or I am feeling good because of that? We should always ask ourselves. And that prejudice against the elderly affects men differently than it affects women. For us to have gray hair socially is okay. For women, gray hair is a different thing. I like it personally, but I think it's a struggle for women. I envy those who have hair, either gray or black. I envy those who have hair, period. Anyway, it's the discussion. We need to think about that. So it's important to define what models I'm going after. We have standards who are oppressive to young people, older people, and so on. And we cannot choose one side or the other. We need to understand each elderly person is an individual and they will find their way. They'll find a way to age, and we need to respect that. Now, speaking a bit about loneliness, a phenomenon that the professor mentioned, until recently or a few years ago, England implemented the Ministry of Solitude. That speaks to what we've done socially, of course. Unfortunately, some public policies will simply cut rights. Right? You close public libraries. You close civic centers where people gather. So in the future, to fight loneliness, you have to create more places where the elderly feel welcome, feel socially engaged, politically engaged, and also physically accessible. At the same time, to your first question about the prejudice against the elderly, where you have older people living with younger people in the same area. The young have a lot to learn with the elderly and the other way around also. So this will be good overall, both to fight loneliness, to improve the economy, to mitigate the suffering of younger people. So fighting loneliness can affect different structures. Again, thinking about having more public libraries, places where people can live and discuss I was told there is a microphone that can go around the audience for questions. And as I said, I follow orders. If that's the rule, I'll just follow it. Is there a mic going around? If you have a question, raise your hand and the mic will be taken to you. Just I ask you to have brief questions. So I don't think we have questions for now. So let's carry on. As you prepare your questions, I'll continue with the conversation.
More question to you, Dr. Yakayama, about those community centers that you bring people together to live together, right? In Japan, it's part of your social experiment. Is it working or not? And how does community centers are financed? Is it private money? People pay to stay there? There are public subsidies to help not rich people to participate in that kind of initiative? What is the situation?
Okay. Can you hear me now? Yes. Can you hear me?
No.
Okay.
The question, why do I ask this question? Because based on personal experiencing and looking around, it makes all the sense for old people to live with old people. But normally, old people are very reluctant
Yeah.
to accept living with other people, which is normal, right? They tend to be even more secluded at home, and how do you deal with these contradictions?
Yeah. Well, the community is that is assisting living place. I think you meant.
Yeah,
I
that's
showed,
it.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, Japanese older people wants to live their own house. Okay, the same.
Yeah.
Okay, and most people do. Okay, but also there is some kind of collective living place. It's like those assisted living or nursing home, or now it's getting very popular because the baby boomers, Japanese baby boomers, all of them reach age 75 next year, 25. Okay, so they're kind of start thinking about how long they can maintain their own house, okay, yards and everything. So they're thinking about to move to the more the places easy to take care. Okay. And it's now getting very popular is what you call a senior kind of how to say, condominium, okay, and so it's kind of collective house, okay. But anyway, so there are different kinds of collective the housing, and so people, if they want to move to that, because if you for those places, I think there is each units, and then there is the dining room for everyone, and also some places where there might be nurse or concierge type of things, okay, and it's different, okay, and but anyway, the place I mentioned is, I think it's on the first floor there is the service station for visiting nurse, visiting the doctors and dentists and pharmacy, and so they can deliver service to those people who live there, but also surrounding community who people live in their own, individual house. Okay, and where I think Japanese government are not encouraging the older people to move to collective housing.
Are not encouraged.
Not encouraged. Not discouraging. But I think that's your choice. Okay.
Right.
And but the business community building a lot of kind of collective housing for
because they
for
see
seniors.
this as
They
an
see
opportunity.
there is a demands. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, many people.
I think we see this happening here to a certain extent. private investors who are building
Yeah.
condominiums which are dedicated to old people.
Yes, right.
Right. The problem here in Brazil is that you don't have as many people who can afford to pay to live in a condominium like that.
Well, the same in Japan. So it's a variety of, the choices now. Okay,
Alright.
and for it's well, myself, when I became 60. Okay, well, because my mother lived until the 98. So okay, I might have another 40 years, and how I'm going to
Easily.
live? Okay, and so right, and because at that time I was living in the kind of big house where my husband was born and raised. Okay, and because my husband lived in the United States, so I was by myself, and how can I maintain this house? Okay, by myself. So and then I look around other options, and then I moved to the condominium near the station. So even if I give up the driving, the license, I can move around. So I think people start thinking about around age 65 and 70, because where do you want to live the rest of your life? Yeah.
Talking a bit about work. If you take the Japanese labor force or the Japanese people over 65, what's the percentage of them who are working, are still in the labor force?
Age 65 and older. Well, the recent statistics is about about 60% of men the 65 and older are
Are
working.
still working.
Yes.
You're still working. And one of the, it caught my attention that some of the works, that that you showed us, are manual work that requires certain, I wouldn't say physical great strength, but some strength, and even taking care of kids, which I have grandkids, so I know it's really demanding. How do you see this life-work balance in old age, right? Because it's not the same as people in their 30s, right? It's a different kind of things.
Well, the Kashiwa, this is the name of the town, is a typical bed town. It's a
typical, sorry?
We call bed town because I think people they leave home early in the morning and go to Tokyo to commute to Tokyo and they come back to sleep. Okay, and so we call bed town.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so now those, the population in bed towns just aging rapidly. Okay. Those people, they don't want to, commute to Tokyo after age 65. But this is,
Good.
rush hour. And so if possible, they want to work in the community. And so the type of job is different because they're not so big company or, in those bed town, that is a residential, community. So the kind of, the jobs which are available is, one is, municipal office and also school. Okay, now it's a shortage of, teachers or work, it's very overworked. Okay, that's a big issue in Japan now. Teachers are overworked. So, and then Kashiwa used to be a farmland. So there are patch of land, and so the agriculture is another kind of job. Okay?
Right.
And it's surprisingly, many people, retired people who did white collar job in Tokyo, chose the farm. They love to work in the field. Okay.
Wonderful.
So, and also the main reason is different because they have pension. Okay, so they want to go out, and get out of the house and also contribute to the society, the community they live. So the job in the municipal office and also the schools are very popular. Okay, so it's a
Very
kind of
interesting.
it's
Yeah, very
different. Yeah,
Very interesting.
and also they combine 2 or 3 jobs.
Yeah, there is a person in the audience who is ready to ask a question. Would you excuse me, Milton, so that yeah, and then I'll get back to you.
Hello. Hi. Hi, my name is Carol, and thank you so much for your presentation. I work with data and numbers, so I was very happy to see so many numbers and so many statistics. But you said one thing, and it really surprised me, so I just want to confirm that I got it right. Half the babies born in 2007 are expected to live for 100 years. So half the babies in Japan that are teenagers now are going to live for 100 years. I was thinking about this statistic, and also when you called it a second life. So I think like asking a social psychologist, what does it mean, to think about your life as ending and then a second life beginning at a mature age?
Yeah. Well, I think the term the second life will disappear because now there is a retirement age, okay, and for many years people expected to work until age 60 or 65, okay, then retirement age. And but I think now the Japanese government pushing the retirement age to 70. Okay, and then probably no retirement age. So kind of ageless society, then there is no concept. It's kind of nonsense for the second life. What is the end of the first life? So, I think, now at this stage, yeah, we call second life. After retirement, yeah.
All right. Dr. Akayama stressed the importance of developing and keeping human bonds. That leads me to think about sexuality, right? And affection and sexuality in old age. And you have a first-hand experience with that because your clinic deals with patients that go to your clinic because they're interested in knowing more or improving their sexual life. What is your take on the importance of love, sex, those small things in life when we get to old age?
Obrigado pela oportunidade de falar um pouco disso. Então,
Thank you for the chance to talk about it. It's a topic that is dear to my heart, and I'll be talking about labor also in a minute. But I'll be talking about sexuality a little bit since you asked. Sometimes we think that sexuality is only the sexual intercourse proper, but sexuality is everything: affection, tenderness, the way you get dressed, the way you look in the mirror and find and see a beautiful person. It's dancing, music. It can also be sex, but it goes way beyond simple sex. So when you think about sexuality from this broader point of view, sex is everything, right? Sexuality is not over when you are 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. Sexuality is part of what we are, from where we're born to when we die. And each one of us has our own way of performing our sexuality through different avenues. Could be sex or not. And we can use, I don't know, medications if you have to, or other guidance. But that tenderness, that affection, the touch will always be there. Or if you're alone, you have the mirror. You have to like what you see when you look in the mirror, even as you get older. I think looking in the mirror and liking what you see, liking the person you see in the mirror, is the first step before thinking about sexuality. And understand that sexuality does not come to an end when you turn 50, 60, 70, and onwards. We have to shift those taboos. We create those taboos. And it's important to believe that subject cannot be banned. When we ban a subject, we create taboos, prejudices, and violence. So there is no forbidden topic. Right? Of course, there are different ways of approaching that, how to talk about it, but we need to create a space that is welcoming to the subject. And then, and only then, we'll be able to address sexuality just as we talk about dementia, depression, accidents, and so on. Now, on the topic of labor and work, we at our Center for Longevity, we have a focal point, Morris Lichvite, who's an expert on the employability of people 50 and over. And this is a broad discussion, of course, a complex discussion when you talk about employment for older people. You talked about manual work, as the professor mentioned. Of course, people cannot have a choice. Some people do not have a choice. You need to think about offering better jobs to those people. But for those who have a job they want to continue performing, that's good for the economy. If they want, it's good for the economy. They continue to contribute, paying taxes and so on. And also, that switch that you turn is good for the company as well. The solutions for the market will come from the minds of the older, more experienced employees. A 20-year-old employee will never think about a solution for somebody who's 70 years old. It's a combination of efforts of younger and older people working in the same team, thinking about solutions collectively. So inclusion in the job market of older people is good for everyone. But of course, we need to protect the elderly because unfortunately, here in Brazil, when elder people in Brazil go back to the job market, unfortunately, we're talking about low-level work with no social protection, and they go back to the market because they need, not because they want to engage socially. So that's also a topic which is important to discuss. You have answered the question from Rebecca, who sent us a question. What we need to change in the way people see elder people working, job market, and so on.
Final question, I was told. And the final question is very easy, Dr. Akiyama. It's really, really easy. What are the secrets to get well into the 100 years?
It's a challenge, actually. Well, I think it might be, because there is a kind of general principle, as you know, I mean, eat well, sleep well, whatever, I mean, and be active, I mean, socially, and, but how to do this, I mean, how to do this, each thing, it's quite an individual, I think. It's not same recipe. I think it's people think about and the creative, okay? And particularly if you live for 70 years, I mean, already, and I think it's you have your lifestyle, your beliefs, and also your kind of environmental, I mean, social context, and I think you create the way to live well until 100. Yeah,
Very
there's
good.
no one recipe, I think.
Very, very, very nice piece of advice. I think, of course, we have guidances, right? Do this, do that, eat well, sleep well. But you have to adapt this general guidance to you as an individual, right? I hate when people come to you and say, you have to eat a certain amount of calories a day and don't eat this, don't eat that, and you have to run and you have to walk and you have to do push-ups and you have, well, maybe, yeah, once in a while. All right, we come to the end of this event. Once again, thank you very much, to the General Consulate of Japan in São Paulo, to the Japan House, to the wonderful Cardoso Foundation. And I think it has been a very interesting conversation, and I hope we can put together other events of this kind again. You can count on us. Thank you so much for the two of you, and especially for you, Dr. Akayama. I don't know whether all of you know, she arrived yesterday and she's flying out tomorrow. 3 days in Brazil, right? So I hope
I am
you
81
don't,
years old.
I hope you don't wait another 30 years to come back. All right, thank you. Bye-bye.